Guns are not just a part of American life, they've almost become a universal symbol now too. Besides just being woven into our history, from the era when matchlock muskets armed the earliest colonies, to the Colt revolvers and Winchester rifles coming straight out of the Old West, to the Glock handguns we see today. Unfortunately, it seems that with the passage of time, gun knowledge has seriously gone down. Today, we're going to tell you how guns work and take a look at their inside mechanisms. First up, the inner workings. All guns, originating from the very first Chinese fire lances that launched fireworks, all the way to the contemporary AK-47s and pump-action shotguns that you see everywhere now, have more in common than you'd guess. They all pretty much have the same basic components in all their firing mechanisms, which are made up of a projectile. Projectiles originally used to be fireworks or metal fragments, and they are the component that is launched out of the gun. Second, we have the barrel. This is the part of the gun which the bullet is launched out from. It could also be the channel that a projectile needs to find its way out. Then we have the propellant. This is where the gunpowder is kept, and it's also responsible for ejecting the projectile at very high speeds. Last off, there is the ignition agent. This is required to set off the gun. All modern-day guns rely on this simple process, and understanding these steps definitely makes it much easier to use them. The really early guns, for example, the European serpentine gun, used a matchlock firing mechanism to be extremely blunt. This technical firing system functions by having the very end of the barrel stuffed with gunpowder through the muzzle, which is the front of the gun. After that, the projectile, which is basically a bullet in the case of the matchlock, would be shoved in with a stick through the front. Then we have the ignition source, which would usually be a long burning fuse and was controlled by a switch, which was called the matchlock. When you pressed a lever, the burning fuse would almost be like tapped onto the gunpowder propellant through a hole in the side of the gun. This hole is referred to as a flash pan. But how does it happen? When it's ignited, the gunpowder propellant will launch your bullet. As opposed to popular belief, gunpowder does not literally explode. It just actually burns really hot and fast. However, if gunpowder does not explode, how does it all go down? Let's just say that the gunpowder somehow pushes the bullet out. Guns nowadays use a combination of a hammer or a striker that is spring-loaded. This actually coerces big amounts of possible energy into the spring. Pulling the trigger uses and launches this energy, lets that hammer slam itself into a primer. This propels the back of the bullet and is the modern-day version of an ignition source. This is something you should definitely be aware of before trying to work a gun. Pretty much all modern gun firing mechanisms, that is, except very few rifles, which are a totally different story, are based on the same basic concept of igniting a propellant, and it is slowly exploding and gradually burning in order to eject a projectile. Make sure you keep this in mind as we come into some more difficult and cool examples of contemporary firearms. Modern firing mechanisms are so vast and plentiful, it is actually amazing how many unique marvels of engineering we've created just to launch a bullet out of a gun. Also, these firing mechanisms can be categorized into one-shot repeating and automatic action firing. This is something that will definitely sound familiar to gun shooting enthusiasts. Now for the Mauser. Let's begin with the most notorious of the single-shot action firing mechanisms, which is the ball action rifle. Okay, so there are many different types of ball action systems, and in this video we will be specifically giving you guys an insight into the world's most common and most popular ball action weapon system, which is the Mauser. This system is almost fully controlled by a bolt slide. Very predictable, yes. But this is behind around 99% of the gun's firing process. Everything from loading ammunition to getting cases back to actually firing the gun. If you still don't understand, take a look at the firing process. You start by pulling the bolt back in upwards. This will open the chamber where you'll have to put in an unused bullet cartridge. After that, you then slide the bolt back into its original place. This not only shoves the bullet into place, but it seals the chamber and also works as a firing pin. So when you hit the trigger to fire the gun and launch the bullet, that bolt switches from the bullet transportation method to the ignition source we even previously mentioned in the video. Then what happens is the firing pin hits the back of the bullet cartridge, which ignites the gunpowder that is contained in the back of the bullet. This mechanism is the propellant that launches the bullet down the barrel. So how does gunpowder launch a bullet? What was that mysterious force that we were talking about? We know that gunpowder can't explode because obviously that would cause pretty bad harm to the person wielding the gun, especially with modern-day guns, which are often made out of plastic. Yes, they aren't made out of metal and wood like they used to be anymore. An explosion caused by gunpowder could be lethal to the person holding the gun, or anyone standing close enough. But what if we told you that guns didn't operate by exploding gunpowder, that they actually worked by heating up very quickly when the gunpowder is ignited? Gunpowder doesn't actually explode, but it does get hot very fast, which is a small difference, but a significant one. This heat leads to a big buildup of gas inside the gun, which forces the bullet to take the route of least resistance, which is the end of the barrel. We hope this clears out that common misconception. Now let's go forward to the repeating action systems. We will be taking a closer look into the specifics of the mechanics that comprise the pump-action repeating shotguns. As for our example, we will be giving you guys some insight into the mechanics of the Winchester Model 12 repeating action shotgun. After watching countless videos and studying the mechanics of the pump-action shotgun, the level of innovation and original thought that it took to make the whole process work is actually quite impressive. Let's work our way up from the ground and move forward from there. We're going to start with the firing process of the shotgun. How do we get from putting pressure on the trigger to a slug firing at the base of the barrel at 1500 feet every second? It's actually quite easy to understand. So, as soon as you pull the trigger on a shotgun, a cocked hammer slams into the back of a firing pin, which in turn launches a bullet in your shotgun. Yep, it's that simple. The pump action system starts by loading bullets into the side of the gun, which is pretty standard procedure. Yet, we should probably tell you that very few pump action shotguns employ magazines. But there are some out there which do. For example, the Remington. While the bullets are loaded in with your fingers, what it does is compress a magazine spring, which is then closed by a small tab with a round circle. It's called the cartridge cutoff. Now you have your projectiles and propellant in one, all ready and loaded into your gun. After the gun is fired, with our customary ignition agent, aka the firing pin, spring pressure is applied on the area of the plum action weapon, which is also referred to as slide law. This is where the famous shotgun cock is about to appear. In the purpose of the pump firing the mechanism, it's actually brilliant, as the pump pulls the springs on the entire system. Pulling back on the rounded slab of wood lets go of the pressure on the side lock and pulls back the spent case of bullet back into the gun's chamber. From here, it's kicked off to the side, leaving an empty space. This empty space won't stay that way too long, because as the pump is moved forward, one of the previous bullets is launched upwards into the chamber and loaded into the barrel, and the gun is essentially reset. This is all the base work that goes into making your favorite weapons operate, the AK-47. Now, finally, we are going to end our close look at gun systems by examining the almost legendary automatic firing mechanism of the AK-47. To gun enthusiasts, this will give you an example of a gas-operated long-stroke gas piston system. In case you didn't know, automatic weapons are so neat not only because they are throwing out hundreds of rounds a minute, but also because they are able to carry out the tricky task of not just getting the bullet out of the barrel, but also recocking the hammer, throwing the shell out of the gun, and loading a new bullet into the barrel, and often multiple times a second too. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and let us know in the comments what you think. Check out our other videos and subscribe to be part of the fun. Make sure to click the notification icon so you can see our new videos as soon as they're uploaded. We'll see you next time.